those of you who I haven't met in person, anyway, my name is Charlotte Danielson. I'm an attorney with Infinity Law. Law degree is from Stanford, undergraduate from Berkeley in political science and economics. And I've been, for the last 22 years, helping companies from around the world come to the US. As part of that, I've done a lot of nonprofit work as well, and worked for 5.5 years as the person leading a Silicon Vikings, which is a 45,000 plus nonprofit membership group that connects the Nordic and Baltics to the US, or Silicon Valley in particular. I have taken a big interest in Dallas recently, mostly because of the huge migration happening in that direction with and all the activities happening in the startup scene. And this in general is kind of a dream of mine, to get everyone together, because in my travels I've gotten to see so many different innovation programs and university entrepreneurship programs, and I just think, wow, if everybody could just talk to each other, that would be the coolest thing ever. So you're basically living out my dream here, and so hopefully you all will enjoy it and learn from it as well, because I see so many great things and just kind of think everyone would benefit from hearing from each other across boundaries. So with that said, I'd like to just go ahead and have you all introduce yourselves and a little bit about your programs. So Marilyn, why don't you start?
Great, thank you. Good morning. I'm Marilyn Wiley. I'm Dean of the G. Brent Ryan College of Business at the University of North Texas. And we foster entrepreneurship in two ways. We have an entrepreneurship major that is one of our most active majors, and we also provide minors for students in other colleges. We have partnerships, for example, with the College of Engineering, so their biomedical engineering doctoral students end up with a master's in entrepreneurship through us. And that's an example of multiple partnerships across the university. We have an applied entrepreneurship focus through our Murphy Center for Entrepreneurship. That center takes the other side of the equation, where students bring their interest in starting a company through the major. We also want to foster those people who come with a good idea and no idea how to transform that into a business. So that's the Murphy Center's role. We've taken 3 companies through the second round of venture capital financing this year that are ready for public launch. And we also, at the very early stages, provide mentoring, training, connections, and small seed money grants where we can to startups.
And I saw Brett, thank you, Marilyn. I saw Brett just joined. Amber, can you add him to the panel? Here, good morning, Brett. And Maria, why don't you go next?
Okay, so hi everybody. I'm Maria Swartz from Linköping University in Sweden, approximately 32,000 students. And I work as a collaboration office where we have both fundraising and we try to support, give innovation support to both students and to teachers and researchers as well. So at our university, we strive to introduce entrepreneurship courses into every program at the university. So we don't have any master in actually entrepreneurship, and we've been discussing this for I don't know how long, if that is something that we should have or not. And we have a professor at our university, he really wants that, but now we have more. We've gone into this other part that where we try to introduce it in every program instead, and also do this short 15-minute jumps into normal courses. Actually, it could be in e-health or in medicinal care or whatever, just to inspire to talk about entrepreneurship and innovation.
Okay,
so I
great.
stop
Michael, why don't you go next?
Okay.
Oh, I think you're muted. There we go. Can I unmute you now?
Sorry, good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Carrot. I'm the William M. Dickey Entrepreneur in Residence at TCU's Neely School of Business. And we have a pretty robust program. First, we have Values and Ventures, which is the largest undergraduate business plan competition in the United States and brings people, our schools from around the world every year. It's been a little bit shortened because of COVID, but it will pick back up very quickly. And that is for-profit businesses that are built basically to make the world a better place. And then we have the Create Shattuck program. This is an integrated program with a class that I teach called Entrepreneurial and Investor Capital, where we teach graduate MBA students how to invest and how to raise money, not just from private equity, but through crowdfunding and every other possible.
Okay.
We have at Cowtown Angels. And the Shattuck Fund then is a fund that we have for students. Any student on the campus can apply to the Shattuck Fund. We hand out in grants $25,000 a semester to help students get their business ideas off the ground. And then the graduate students are the judges for that program, so it's pretty much an entirely student-run program. It's been very successful. We've had it for a number of years, and we've launched a number of really good companies that are out there doing extremely well right now. We also have a mentoring program. We have an experiential learning program where students start businesses in the semester and have to make money by the end of the semester. We have another program in which we work with high school students who come to campus and we teach them about entrepreneurship. So we have a really robust program. It's getting bigger. We're adding a fund of alumni so we can go to the next level. Once students move up from the Shattuck Fund, they can go to the alumni fund and get a little bit more money to put a little more fuel on their business. So we are determined to become a top 10 program, and we're doing everything we possibly can to make that happen and to create not only new businesses, but to spread entrepreneurial thinking across not just our campus, but more.
Great, thank you. Laima?
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Laima Kaušpadienė. I'm from Lithuania, Vilnius, and today I represent Sunrise Valley Science and Technology Park, which is a nonprofit organization established in a huge campus, the biggest one actually in the Baltics. And in the campus, we have two major universities of Lithuania. We have 5 open access research centers, and as a science technology park, we are a business park in this knowledge triangle. And as an organization, we promote entrepreneurship in many different ways. But today, mainly I will speak about our pre-accelerator, which is called Futurepreneurs. Actually, we had a pleasure to have Charlotte during the launch day of the Futurepreneurs. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Charlotte, once again for being with us. And very shortly, Futurepreneurs is a sustainability pre-acceleration program for impact-driven entrepreneurs, the ones that wants to change the world. And participants during the program receive mentorship, education, and skill development while working on their business solutions. And the program includes open lectures, 5 of them during a 2-month-long program. The sessions are on how to start a business, on the basics. It also includes hands-on workshops, individual mentorship sessions, and students also work with business professionals, and they have opportunity to pitch in front of potential investors. And what we are happy about is that last year the program won the national competition of the European Commission as the best one in promoting the entrepreneurial spirit.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wow, great. Yeah, I know that was actually an amazing program she has going there. So that's something you Futurepreneurs take a look at that. It's a great model, I think, to really get people who wouldn't necessarily think about being entrepreneurs actually moving in that direction. Paul, why don't you go next? Thank you.
Sure. Good morning, everybody, and good evening to our European friends. Happy Friday. So I'm Paul Nichols. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the University of Texas at Dallas. And UTD is a relatively young public university. We're only about 50 years old, and we've only had a full undergraduate program since 1990. But since then, we've been growing very quickly. So we're about 30,000 students now. We do about $130 million worth of research. And the Institute is actually pretty unique. We do things differently at UTD. We're more of an umbrella organization for the entire campus. So I actually report to both the Dean of the School of Business and our Vice President of Research. That's both of our funding sources. And our charter is to work with everybody on campus, including alumni and those outside the university. So I'm responsible for our undergraduate and our graduate degrees and programs. I'm also responsible for our non-academic programs. We are a Blackstone Launchpad university. And I also coordinate with the Office of Research when it comes to commercialization of technology and our incubator space on campus, which we've had to expand for the third time because it's so popular. We have about 25 to 28 startups in it at any one time. We just concluded our biggest event of the year, our Big Idea Competition yesterday as part of Global Entrepreneurship Week. And it's a lot to manage. Most universities, when you look at their entrepreneurship program, it's usually coming out of their School of Business. But that's as far as it often goes. But we're taking a very strategic view of this. In fact, UTD lists the Institute as part of its own strategic efforts in terms of economic development. So we've got a lot of really good support from all different parts of campus. And it's really exciting to be able to have students from different backgrounds working on teams together, taking courses and workshops together, working on different ideas and taking a very interdisciplinary approach. And our curriculum is very practical in its construction. 4 of our faculty are former or current venture capitalists. I myself am not an academic. I'm a former venture capitalist and startup CEO and corporate person myself, and I'm still learning the world of the academia for the last year or so.
Great, thank you. Richard, please go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Richard Dasher. I direct the U.S. Asia Technology Management Center, which is a small industry-funded research and education center in Stanford. We are teaching about entrepreneurship and innovation. We are doing research into different kinds of entrepreneurial innovation patterns across Asia and in the U.S. I also advise a number of student groups that are focused on entrepreneurship, and I'm involved in advising some startup accelerators and so forth.
Great. Thank you, Richard. He's our expert in everything Asia. Always.
It's frightening.
Taru, please.
Hi, so good morning and good evening on my behalf as well. I'm Taru, and I'm actually talking to you from Helsinki, but I'm representing Tampere University, which is the second largest university in Finland, but it's actually the youngest university. It was born in the beginning of 2019 out of the merger of former Tampere University, which is very focused on social sciences and humanities, and the other university that was merged was the Tampere University of Technology, deep roots in the industrial collaboration and innovation. And based on their culture, they couldn't be far furthermore apart because they were totally different. And on the side of kind of the social sciences and humanities, there are still people who don't even want to hear about innovation. And it's an interesting landscape to work in. And I'm responsible, as the innovation director, I'm responsible for developing the innovation culture of the new university. And I'm also responsible for the development of the sustainable development thing. So anything kind of basically related to sustainable development, so coordinating that. And I think, at least in Finland, that's a very unique role to have both of these big important themes coming together in a unique way. And basically what we've done during these 2 years is trying to kind of get these two themes come more and more together. And I really feel the excitement from Paul's introduction, because we also ended our big innovation week this week. We have a traditional student innovation event where almost 600 students coming from very different disciplines, so anything from like languages and engineers and medical doctors, coming together, innovating for cases from different types of organizations. And today, this year, all the cases were related to sustainable development issues. In previous years, many of the cases have come from companies, but this year they were like sustainable development activists and research organizations giving the task to the students. And it's so awesome to see these different types of teams coming together and really working out the solutions. Another program, basically what I wanted to shortly just describe to you is what we started to boost the research based innovations is called Future Finder. So something related to Lima's Futurepreneurs program, but this is more directed to the faculties and the researchers. And we had an open call for activists and people who are really enthusiastic about developing this, and have a very diverse group of people ranging from PhD students to professors and teachers and anything in between. So they have a network of really working together and trying to understand how to get these professors of different fields to work together to really develop the innovation culture in the university. And then one more interesting program that I wanted to mention is the European Network and Collaboration Network of Innovative Universities, where we are taking part. And there we actually, yes, Maria, we are also working with Linköping there, but working on different types of challenges coming from different countries. At the moment, we have a group working on a challenge from Italy. We have students from all over the Europe working on challenges provided by City of Tampere and so on. So those were the kind of the highlights from Finland. Nice to be here with you.
Thank you. And as we move forward here in the discussion, please feel free to actually start talking and asking each other questions. We don't, now that the introductions sort of are finished, we don't just have to ask for me to, yes, Maria.
Yeah, I just wanted, first two questions. So can you raise hands? Is there a button to
no.
push to, no?
No,
So you just do
I
like
think
that.
we physically have to raise hands.
So I just wanted to comment on Taru. I'm glad you brought it up because I missed it. I think it's a really nice program where 12 universities in Europe collaborate and really try to go from society challenges and bring that into the university, into the education. And so that should inspire students to really take part of innovation, see that they can make a difference, and I think it's a big step. I think it's great.
Great.
The beautiful things about the whole program is that it's not only inspiring students to work on these different challenges, but also trying to inspire the teachers to start piloting on the challenge-based learning pedagogy and so on. So trying to really change and shake the whole university.
So now to all of you here, what is the most effective thing that you've found so far, or what you would say is sort of your best practices in promoting entrepreneurship and innovation? Sort of specifically, you've discussed your programs, but what is sort of the key to that? And both in promoting entrepreneurship and innovation and or sort of corporate community engagement in the innovation programs at your university or in your region as a whole. You're welcome to sort of discuss what your community challenges are and what role the university is sort of playing in overcoming those things. If you had to pick one thing, what's the most effective thing you've done? We can start again. Yeah, Paul, go ahead.
If I have to pick one thing, because we've had to do many things, because we're innovators, right? But the one thing that actually was the most important for us was having our own marketing and communications person. We just simply do too many events, and we have too many publics that we have to reach out to, both internal to the university as well as external to the outside world. And unfortunately, just having to rely on the university communications team wasn't enough for us. So we needed somebody within our staff that could be focused just on our events and promoting what we're doing to all the different publics and communicating, because everybody needs a little slightly different message in how we get our information out. So that was probably the biggest of all the different things that we've had to do. That one has helped the most.
Great. Marilyn.
One of the things that has been most successful for us is creating a platform for mentoring that brought back successful entrepreneurs who came from our program. And I think first of all, the demonstrated success in the mentors for the people who want to become entrepreneurs is critical. And second, the fact that we can say, and they started where you did, I think has really resonated with some of our community and helped them to be more willing to take the risks that they need to take.
Great. Anyone else? Yeah, Richard. Oh, sorry.
Okay. So at Stanford, what's very few people really recognize is the role of student-led organizations in promoting entrepreneurship.
Can you guys hear Richard?
Can you or not?
Yeah, we can hear you, Richard.
Okay. So these student-run organizations really predated Stanford's formal programs in entrepreneurship. And one is called ACES, the Global Entrepreneurship Community. They've been gathering for more than 25 years now, putting together summits of students from universities all over the world about entrepreneurship. And I think that you find that, out of the alumni from that event, several companies that have already gone public and a lot of people now in the venture capital community. So really the students organizing and running things, they have a freedom and they can attract speakers even better than somebody like I can. So I think student-run organizations have been surprisingly effective.
Great. Yes. Lima, you had a comment as well.
Yeah. I think for futurepreneurs, we have two aspects that help us to engage students to go to the program. The first one would be that we involve businesses, we involve venture capital companies, successful startups as lecturers, as mentors, to help them to develop their idea, to go from idea to a normal pitch deck for investors. And the second thing perhaps is the topic, the sustainability, because as I said, young people is the Generation Z who is very keen on changing the planet, on saving the planet, and they thrive for it. So perhaps that is one of the topics.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Tara. In just 1 minute, I wanted to actually ask by a show of hands here if I know in Europe the UN sustainability factors, the round chart is a huge thing. Haven't seen it as much in U.S. universities. Curious if you, from the U.S. people, is that something that has been integrated really into the business programs or entrepreneurship programs now or not? You can just say yes or no if you...
Actually, yes. We recently did that. So we have a relatively new program called Social Entrepreneurship. And it's been transformed because the School of Management now has a requirement that all the undergrad students have 100 hours of community service in order to graduate. Or they can take one course, that course that we run in social entrepreneurship. And the way the course was structured is that the students would form into teams, about 4 or 5, and they would be partnered with a nonprofit organization in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We kicked that off last year, worked great until COVID hit. And all these nonprofits suddenly had a lot more than talking with a bunch of undergraduate teams. So for this fall, we modified the curriculum where the students would form their own nonprofits according to these UN guidelines. And we're trying to expose them to the international aspect of nonprofits, not just what they can do locally in their own community.
Great. Great. Marilyn?
Can I tag on to what Paul said? We just started a social entrepreneurship class as well. We have a new endowed chair scholar in entrepreneurship, and that's his passion. And we find that's really a way to engage students in a place where they can see immediate results. And it does promote that idea of sustainability and awareness.
Great. Okay.
The students are very aware of the UN SDGs. And there are courses now, but I think that the big thing is just the kind of interest from the students has driven this.
Great. Michael, did you have something to add?
Yeah, we have a program around that too, around social entrepreneurship and nonprofits and students many times.
Okay.
Say earlier was that we expand our program, expanding the definition of entrepreneurship. A lot of people think entrepreneurship is just about starting companies, but it's much more about being entrepreneurial no matter what your work environment, whether you're in a corporation, a family business, a nonprofit. It doesn't matter. An entrepreneur, we believe, is critical for managing yourself and your companies in the 21st century.
Great. Yes. Okay, Taru, now back to the original. I think we were on the most effective.
I mean, it's such a wonderful discussion, and I couldn't agree more with each and every one of you. I mean, all ways are super important, and I already forgot what I was supposed to say, but coming back to the sustainable development and the UN goals and entrepreneurship skills and entrepreneurial skills, to me, maybe I believe that the most effective thing what we've done is really these type of events what we've had this week, where we have such a wide array of students working together with the different organizations to build something and to make something concrete, because so much when we talk about the sustainable development goals and in the university context is always about, we need to teach more about the sustainability, and we need to give more information, and we need to do this and more science. And I agree, that's definitely needed. But what we actually need urgently is that we are educating people and giving them tools and skills to change the world. And in entrepreneurial skills are exactly that. And when you can have and kind of introduce this type of experience that the people and the students, they feel that they are doing something, that they are actually changing something in the companies that they work with. It's really a powerful experience for the young students. And when they go out and then start their working life as an entrepreneur or in a company or wherever, they carry this with them, and they are more ready to really take on the challenges of sustainable development. And I think that's kind of the most effective direction where we can lead and go.
Okay. Maria.
Yeah, and I totally agree, but I think also, I think it's important for us anyway in Europe to really highlight the individuals also as well when they do something, because we're not so, we don't like to brag in Sweden, and we don't take the scene as you would do in the US, and so our students are not, I mean, when somebody does something good, it's not really that we're putting them up there, but I think that we should really show more, and when we show more that this is someone or maybe a group of people that we are very proud of. Look at them. And there's this club for that. So it goes also to what you said, Richard, about this student organization. So when they start to sort of cluster together and feel that, well, we are entrepreneurs together, and bringing some starlight on them, I think that is very, very important.
Great. Anyone else about what's most effective? Did we go through everyone, or I lost track? No? Okay. Well, how about what your greatest challenges have been in increasing innovation and entrepreneurship? Okay. Michael, we'll start with you.
Well, here in North Texas, it's funding and enough developers, coders. We simply don't. We depend a lot on UTD actually to graduate as many as possible. Because there's a huge shortage here, and every entrepreneur that comes through my office or futurepreneur needs help with that. They don't know how to code, many of them, and many of them go teach themselves, which is great. But there's tremendous opportunities here, and that's our number one problem. Funding is another one. Even if it's a small amount, even microfunding to help them give proof of concept in their ideas. Those are the two things that I think are the biggest inhibitors to creating more entrepreneurs here in North Texas.
Okay. Tara, who? Sorry, I didn't see who was talking. Someone say something? Yeah. Okay, Tara, go ahead. I saw you raise your hand.
Thank you. I don't know if it's a Finnish thing or is it a thing from Tampere, or is it related to certain fields of science, but really the difficulty of communicating the innovation and entrepreneurship theme to certain disciplines of science, to social scientists and humanities, to really convincing them that this is something that they could also benefit from. That has been that I could ever expect. I come from a startup and corporation background, so I've been in business and innovation for a long time, and I've actually never worked with people from social sciences or researchers of politics or history or whatever. And I mean, just kind of finding the common language, and Paul mentioned the communications and resources on that. I think it's extremely important, and we can't lose the potential of those sciences, but really how to kind of take them and convince them and attract them to the game. I think that's at least something that we're struggling with.
Great. Lima?
Yeah, I just wanted to add it to Tauro, what you said, that it's quite challenging to attract people. And the next thing is quite challenging to keep them motivated and to keep their attention during the whole program. So during the whole program, we must think of some entertaining, because young people, they want everything fast. They want everything to be delivered right here, right now, and it's quite challenging. And the lockdown, it didn't help. During the middle of a program this year, we had to go online. That was a bit of a challenge, but we managed. And I'm so afraid that lockdown will go on, and next year we will have to think about some different ways how to motivate, how to attract, and that will be challenging.
Yeah, Richard.
So on a regional level, of course, Silicon Valley has real problems with very high prices. In fact, we're seeing an outflow of people who are working from home from all over the country now. But that's been a problem regionally. In terms of the university, I'm afraid that the biggest problem is bureaucratization. Universities want everything to become standard, right? You want to standardize the content of something. And the problem is innovation and entrepreneurship are never standard. The next time something happens will always be different from previous times in some way. So keeping that freshness and openness to respond to immediately changing situation is very hard for a university framework to do.
Absolutely. Okay. Marilyn.
I'd like to add 2 comments to that. Universities are not great at entrepreneurial thinking themselves, and that does make it challenging. we found it was really important to us to position our institute not just in the college, but also in the division of research, where they're used to thinking about new ideas, and that's been very helpful to us. I'd also add, and Cameron had a question in the chat, Cameron Cushman, that I think is relevant to this, finding a continued pool of entrepreneurs who are ready to mentor new innovators and startups is critically important to the success of this. If we don't keep that pipeline going, I don't think we can generate the new intellectual capital that we need. And I would say to your question, Cameron, how do you connect to universities? You can probably go to any of our web pages and search entrepreneurship, and it will take you to the page for our entrepreneurship programs, because I think we all have them. We try to reach out as well. We've been going through chambers of commerce. That does not necessarily seem to generate a lot of help. We also find connecting to other entrepreneurial groups is really, really important to build that network.
Great. Maria, you have?
Yes, I think if we expect our students to be innovative, I think we also have to put in more time from teacher side, from the employee side, just to also be able to have the time to be creative, to change the curriculum in a way that so we can let the students be more creative and more innovative. And that's a problem that we actually talked about yesterday. We have a new vice chancellor, and he thought also that we also say for ourselves that we are an innovative university, but we have the last years it's more bureaucracy. It's like you said, it's more standardized, and you should do this, you should fill in these forms, and this is how we do it. And it's also because we're getting larger and larger, of course, as a university. So everybody on the central level wants to keep us, unified. But we really need time to be creative and to also show that we can be creative in our programs and so forth.
Okay. Paul.
Yeah, like everyone, we've had a number of challenges this past year. We are a public university, so we are reliant on tuition as well as state funds. And the sources of income for the state of Texas are oil and gas revenue and sales tax, both of which are depressed right now. So that's been a big concern. The other is we've lost a lot of international students. We usually have a large international student component on our graduate school side. But we've sort of been able to mitigate that through online learning. In fact, we had 30,000 students go online last spring in 2 weeks or less. And if you told me we were going to go pull that off, I would have called you crazy. But it worked. And the students have responded well. The faculty have responded well. In fact, all the faculty in my department want us to keep the live remote capability for even when we're back live in the classroom, because it's just so flexible for everyone. But I am learning that a lot of academia is very insular, which is very surprising to me. So whenever I want to talk to a different department, different professor, different instructors and staff, make them aware of all the resources we have for them, it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of internal education I still have to do, even though we're a very public institute, we're a very public organization for the university. There are still a lot of people on campus who don't know what we do, and that's just straight up good old evangelism, just getting out there and letting people know what we do and getting in front of them, and that just takes time.
Mm-hmm. Great. Michael?
Yeah, one of the programs that we started was this faculty entrepreneurial fellow, where we brought in non-business professors from around the university, and many of them had been entrepreneurs in some way or form or were, and we helped them put together programs and modules in the courses they currently taught about entrepreneurship. We have about 38 professors involved in that program. And it's been really successful in bringing students to entrepreneurship through the lens of their discipline, and that's been very effective for us. We've around foreign students not being able to come and going online and all that, but that has not seemed to slow down things. In fact, we basically try to train students that this is what they're going to be doing in their jobs. They'll be connecting with people around the world and around the state. And this is a great learning experience for them. How do you lead in this environment? How do you create a company or a culture in this environment? And more companies are becoming more and more virtual. This is a skill set they need to have. And so we're working very hard in our classes to train them around how to most effectively use this medium to build companies, to lead companies, to manage companies, and to grow companies.
So if financing wasn't an issue at all, assume administrative barriers were not an issue at all, and you just sort of had free reign here, what innovative program idea would you like to try that you believe would have a lot of impact? We're in dreamland here now, so there are no barriers.
Well, I have an answer.
Okay.
I want to get right away. So I have two things. One is I believe that we should all get together in North Texas and create a crowdfunding program for any business, student, or citizen in North Texas where they could appeal to their fellow citizens to help fund expansions or new businesses, etc. The fact that we don't have that, I think, is something that we really could have remedied very quickly and would be a source of funding for not only the folks who are in business already, but people who want to become entrepreneurs and have a business idea and just need a little bit of funding. So it'd be sort of a Kickstarter for North Texas. The second thing is that I think that we need, and that crowdfunding is obviously the source of funding that we would need. The second thing is, I think I would love to have a certificate program online that any person could take in North Texas or around the country for that matter, in thinking like an entrepreneur. So we could train everyone in North Texas to at least think like an entrepreneur, so that they have the kind of thinking that they need in order to survive no matter what their job, whether they have a small business or in a large corporation. They need to understand that, because in the future, all of us are going to have to be entrepreneurial. Everyone at some point in their career will have to be an entrepreneur, but they're going to be on a 1099 as an independent contractor or some other thing. And we need to start giving people those tools. Because when we have interruptions like COVID, and so many people go off, lose their job, they need the skills to go figure out, how do I create something now, or as a side hustle when I have a job, so that when something happens, I'll be prepared, because this is going to happen more and more and more often.
Charlotte, we can't hear you.
Even if it's not, sorry, I just wanted to add a comment to what you just said. Even if it's not that someone is going to go be an entrepreneur at any point, I think the entrepreneurial mindset is something that makes change easier. And in the U.S., I mean, that's one of the biggest obstacles we've been seeing over the past few decades are the people who are sort of being left behind as globalization happens, as technology has moved in, and that idea that things are going to keep changing. Obviously, as the world progresses, technology, the pace of it is continuing, and there are a lot of people who are going to have to keep changing their occupations. So I think there's a benefit even beyond entrepreneurship, just in sort of not being so focused on your individual field anymore, but that you actually have a broader mind concept. Okay, that was just my little 2 cents there. Anyone next? Their dream idea? Lima, I think you raised your hand.
Well, yeah, I can. First thing, I think I would include entrepreneurial programs into secondary school programs, or even into the kindergarten programs, to teach people for them to get to know how economics work, how life is working, how to create things that not only change lives but change the world. The next thing, perhaps I would grant some most crazy ideas of young students that have passion in their eyes, because many ideas are rejected by, for instance, venture capital, just because, well, they don't seem very well to their eyes. But I think that sparkling eyes is one of the features that shows that this idea can be changing and leading to some impactful things. So I would fund these crazy ideas.
Great, great. Taro, yeah.
I could kind of continue along the lines with Michael's and Lima's. In a way, what Michael mentioned, that there would be an entrepreneurial course for everyone. And in my dream, it would be very similar, because what I'm kind of frustrated about is that now that we managed to put these students to work together with the companies or other organizations, we still have kind of this setup where the teacher or the person working in a company is kind of more knowledgeable and really knows what to do, and then the student is there learning. But when it comes to sustainable development things, we are all learners. We are all kind of in front of these huge challenges, and nobody knows what to do because we would need to change so much. And in order to really get this shaking, I would really dream of a program where we have even small children and the secondary school, and then the researchers and professors, and then people from companies and corporations and entrepreneurs, and everybody working together with their shining eyes and really trying to solve this and really breaking the silos of who actually should be the teacher of whom, and really kind of make us all learners.
Great. Marilyn, want to add something?
I completely agree with the ideas that are being raised. We need to start earlier. We're partnering with 2 school districts to get into the high schools, but we need to go earlier than that. What we hope to teach and what we really need to teach, I think, in all of us, is a willingness to take risk and removing the fear of failure. Partly we can do that with seed grants, partly we can do that with internships and support, but I look at co-workers and students that take such a cautious approach. We'll grow this by 1%. We really need to instill that willingness to think big and to take risks, because that's how we realize our entrepreneurial ideas and make them successful.
Great. Who didn't? Anyone else that I didn't get to? Yeah, Richard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that these are great ideas, and it's really important to promote entrepreneurship through these kinds of deeper programs, going earlier with students. One of the things that I think is missing is a program about the stress of being an entrepreneur. And I think that a lot of the students that I see who actually get into it are not prepared for the isolation that a leader has, where everything has to be, wonderful when you're talking to anybody else and you're worried about making the salaries of all the people that are working for you the next month. That kind of thing is really hard, and especially everyone does encounter failure. And so even though removing the fear of failure doesn't mean that failure doesn't happen, it means how you accommodate it. And I think that there's a real need for looking more at the psychological stress that entrepreneurship involves.
That's an absolute big one. And I've lived through it. I've had friends who've lived through that, and we often joke that we needed a secret support group where we'd go into a room and say, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm an entrepreneur. Hello." Because the other problem is that the people who typically gravitate towards this type of work are already your type A, very aggressive, very ambitious, who also never want to show the other side of when things aren't working out. Oh, everything's fine. I'm doing great. Yeah, and we know behind the smile is a ton of weight on their shoulders, and we just don't talk about it enough. We don't do enough to deal with it, especially with the year that mental health is really important. Richard's absolutely right. We need to be. We're looking at ways we can incorporate that into our curriculum. It's just like the care and feeding of an entrepreneur and a founder, and all the emotional weight and baggage that comes along with this.
Great. Maria?
Can I just comment on that? Because I was actually in this Nordic Innovation House in Palo Alto not so long ago, and there was one guy from the US, a young entrepreneur, who really stood in front of everybody and said, well, you know, I know you want to be entrepreneurs, but let's say maybe in this room you won't make it. He just took it the other part. I can say it's so stressful, you're alone, you have to be in there. And if you feel that after I've been speaking now, if you feel that this is you, then you should go for it. But otherwise, no, you can go home. He was quite fascinating. But what I was gonna say is that I think it's really important to bring in the entrepreneurs into, I mean, the really huge entrepreneurs that we all have and are really famous. We should bring them into the university and really also show that this is, I mean, to inspire, because we collaborate with large companies and so forth, and show them the way how to, this is your future in different parts of the society. But I mean, to really bring in the super entrepreneurs, that would be really inspiring, I think, and cost a lot of money, but maybe not, maybe just some networking that needs to take place.
What about, I mean, from my perspective here, just this idea of this panel, for example, the global collaboration. The European side of Lost, you guys have talked a lot about sort of the collaborations you've had with each other. Those of you from North Texas, you talk about the collaborations within North Texas. But what about across the Atlantic and even across the Pacific? So, I mean, what about getting more of an entrepreneurial angle? And I know in the U.S. in particular, that always seems to be more of a problem because we're such a huge country that we sort of think we don't need to go anywhere outside of the U.S. And I know in Europe, the mindset is very much you kind of learn about more of the world than locally. Where is the place for, or is that more of a need to get more of a global mindset within, especially U.S. universities?
Oh, absolutely.
Or maybe you're already doing that
just
since
from
I graduated way back. Go ahead. Sorry, who?
Because I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
For our sake, it's really important. I think as another, it would be great that we all could send students to each other. But there's a lot of, I mean, it takes some years to be able to fix that. You know, collaborations, agreements, and so forth, and the money over there, and so forth. But to us as a very small country, this is very important, of course. But you are a large U.S. You can. It would be interesting to see what.
But especially now, sort of with this advent, we've all moved online. All the universities had to learn overnight how to do online education. I mean, there is a lot more flexibility with EdTech coming online and things to be more international. Yeah, Richard. So it doesn't have to be just students studying abroad.
So you've kind of hit what I've worked on for the last 25 years. And sometimes I feel like a voice crying in the wilderness. But it is absolutely important to look globally and to have global connections and direct connections with these different programs in different places. For one reason, there's no one single model for a successful entrepreneurial venture. In Europe, entrepreneurs tend to aim for longer term, slightly slower paced growth, but in some ways they come up with very stable, good companies that match the needs of the people who are involved. Whereas in the US, the bad tendency is to grow something as fast as you can so you can flip it. But I think that we really need to learn from each other. This is absolutely critical. We now have the technologies where we can do much more of this.
Yeah. What about Paul?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just a practical matter. So there's the entrepreneurs who need to think globally, and then there's us as institutions. And trying to collaborate internationally. From the entrepreneur's perspective, and this is a huge part of our curriculum, we teach them, it's problem centric. Go find a problem and then build a solution around that. And they're only going to build a solution around a problem they already know, which is typically going to be local to themselves. I have absolutely no insight into the economy of Finland or, what are issues in Eastern Europe. I can read about it in the paper, but I don't have first-hand knowledge. And that's a big constraint for an entrepreneur in order to be successful. They need to work on what they know. So there's just that practical aspect. And then the other part is we absolutely need to be doing more as a community. This is still a growing field, even though marketing folks love the word innovation because it means whatever they want it to mean. You look at any corporate website, within 1 or 2 clicks, you're going to find the word innovation on there, so they can define it any way they want. But we need to be the ones who define what it is, what's behind it. And this is an area where a lot of universities are realizing they need to put more effort and resources into. So as a larger community, we need to have that kind of mindset that this is a global effort, and that people need to be trained in very similar ways around the world. We all have our own regional differences, but globally, not just the physical sphere of the world, but globally our mindset needs to be. And the next generation understands this probably better than any other generation before.
Yeah.
I didn't hear Richard very well, but, we need to know each other for sure. I mean, I was unaware of these people, other than Paul, perhaps. And I really need to know who's out there, because I would love to understand the programs better and see what's successful for them and share what we're doing. There is no reason that we can't have meetings every month or whatever, because we have this medium now. We know how to use it. Everyone's used to it. We can have people from all over the world. We can invite entrepreneurs from around the world, so we can begin to understand how people are thinking about entrepreneurship in these other locations, and how we can help each other. One of the things that I constantly talk about is, if we want to have a human-centered future, a future we all want to live in, we need to understand what that is. And unless we're all talking together, we're not ever going to have any kind of consensus around that. And it doesn't have to be detailed. It just has to be something we can understand. McKinsey, I think, did a study recently where 75% of global companies are involved in AI and machine learning, but only 17% of the executives understand what they're doing, which means that we're creating futures out there that we don't know what we're doing, and we should not be doing that because we don't know what the consequences are. So it'd be good if we could all sort of talk about that and sort of start teaching around, we need to have these policies, we need to have these discussions, not just in America or Europe, around the world, so that we can begin to understand where we're headed and what we want to get out of all of this stuff. And most of this is going to be created by big companies and entrepreneurs. So those are the places I think we need to begin discussions around. But I think there's enormous value in entrepreneurial institutions and professors and teachers and entrepreneurs getting together to talk about some of these things, and to potentially talk about policy that we could recommend to state, local, and national government.
Great. Marilyn?
We used to talk about international business as if it were a separate topic, and we don't do that anymore because all business is international. We need to think about entrepreneurship the same way, and what, from my perspective, needs to catch up is the legal framework for how we do that, because we still get bogged down in international, in intellectual property rights and concerns about sharing ideas. I think we can share ideas. I think when it moves past the idea, we need a stronger system of regulation that supports being able to operate and think that way. Charlotte, you could probably tell us more about that.
Yeah. Okay, any other thoughts on any of that? We're actually, final thoughts, anyone, as we're time's up? No? Yeah, okay, great. Well, I very much enjoyed this. Thank you all so much. Hopefully you all found some benefit from it as well. Very much appreciate you taking the time to come and do this. Okay, thank you all so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Nice meeting you.
Bye.
Nice to meet everyone.